I checked 1, 2. You sure the mic working? I bet, because I don't want to mess up now. I'm Barr and Friends. We keep it authentic, funny, and inspirational. Welcome to the episode. Oh, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, do anything you want to just support us. And let's just get into this. Ah, man, I love this.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this man is a financial renaissance icon.
Come on now.
He wrote How to Get Rich Without Trying.
Come on now.
He's a man of God, faithful to one wife, beautiful children. I welcome you to Barr and Friends, my good friend, Eddie. How are you?
My brother, I'm doing fantastic.
So, Ed, let's go back to your Genesis.
Yeah.
Give us your salvation story, how you came to Christ. Share with us a little bit about that.
A few years ago, I was actually reflecting that because I'm like, oh, it's cool how I kind of came about. I'm big on outreach and stuff like that. And the way I remember it is, we were outside. My mother always spoke to me about God and stuff like that. But we were outside playing, right, looking down Bronx, right. All the kids is out there, and this lady from the building, she's out there with her church preaching. And I didn't think much of it, and then I started listening. I was like 10, 11 years old. And I'm listening, I'm looking around. I'm like, is anybody else listening? Because this message is kind of, at that time it was the brimstone. They're going to go to hell, right? But I can't forget this feeling. I felt, I'm like the message captivated my heart. And I'm like, there's something here. So I'm literally there just like listening and like, I'm like, wow, there's something here. So the lady starts doing Bible studies. We go up there. She's teaching us, like, I don't know. I felt called from that moment. I always knew there was something different. It was something I was supposed to do. There's purpose in my life. And through there, I ended up at a church around the corner from where I lived. My family went, where I kind of developed and learned, and that's it. But there was somebody preaching in the streets. How did you grow up? Did you grow up with your parents?
My mom was a single parent, so yeah.
Okay. All right. I actually same here. My mother had me at 16. She's my big sister. I love her to death.
Wow.
My pops wasn't in the picture.
Yeah.
And so we struggle with this as Christians. Like, how can I see God as my father?
You preach it down.
I've never had,
Oh, go ahead.
a father figure, So that's something that at some point, if your story's similar, you have to deal with. But one of the things that I look forward to, because I didn't have my dad around, was I wanted to be a good father. I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to have a family. And so those are the things that I strive for, and by the grace of God, married 13 years now. My daughters are 8 and 11. Love them. And one of the things recently, and I think this is so important, we were at a men's Bible study or book club and a men's group in our church, and one of the guys mentioned that he apologized to his kids, and he was transparent, and he was like, I didn't have my dad growing up. I didn't see a healthy household. I don't have a clear picture of what this is supposed to look like. So I'm gonna make mistakes. I've probably made mistakes, but I want you to know those are not my intentions. I'm sorry. I was like, you could do that? And so right after that meeting, I went home. I called my daughters to come out, and guess what I did? I said, let me talk to y'all real quick. And I said the same thing. I didn't have a dad. I didn't see a healthy marriage, and so you've probably seen us do things that maybe wasn't the best, but it's just us trying to figure it out. We want to do what's best for you. So I'm sorry, but just know that I'm trying to do my best. Your mom is trying to do her best, and I just want you to know that we're still learning. We're learning together. And I know we've raised our daughters in a way that we have grown conversations with them,
Right.
And so I know that was a special moment for them, and it's such a great idea because I always wanted my dad to say, I'm sorry. You did all right without me. Like, that was something, and I never got it. I never got it.
Till this day?
He's no longer with us. Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's no longer with us. Passed away a couple years ago.
But you were able to kind of form.
No, I mean, I had you hear the messages in church where it's like, and I grew up going to visit him in Texas and stuff like that. And one time, maybe like 10 years ago, they preaching, I don't know, and the forgiveness, you got to forgive. And if you don't have your dad around, you are harvesting that anger. It's there. No matter how good life is, it's there. And so, I'm going to ask my dad for forgiveness. And I called him up. I said, hey, I want to tell you something. And I just poured my heart out. Like, I felt bitter towards you and angry and this and that. But I want to move forward. And his response was, I don't know what to tell you. Bang, hung up. I said, no problem. Bang, boom. But I got it off my chest. I forgave, even though that was not the expected outcome. And so the crazy part is, like, this is crazy. He passes away, and then I'll just share mental health. Like, he shot himself in the head. Yeah, on Father's Day, killed himself. Yeah.
Wow, bro.
Unexpected, like the life of the party. Fun dude, great guy, great friend. That's how that ended. So we out there, and it's crazy. I don't know why we don't do this. We don't find out about like our parents' past. Like they are a certain way based on their upbringing. And so what I came to realize is that he wasn't a man of many words, but he was a man of action, right? So when I had my daughters, he came down with the whole family 2-3 times to support. And then I looked at it like, you're supposed to do that. But for him, and he even came down a couple months before he did it, randomly. For him, that was him saying, I love you. But you don't realize it at the time,
Bro.
Yeah.
Dang. Whew. This just takes me to a whole nother level. Oh, okay. When you first heard the news or when you found out that he committed suicide, that he shot himself to the head, what was going through your mind? How did you feel?
So it was Father's Day.
Right, Father's Day, right.
It's probably like 2-3 o'clock. And the whole day, I'm like, am I going to call him or is she going to call me? And
because y'all usually talk.
It was a communication.
Right, y'all cool. Okay, right.
But there was still, I still had that in my heart. So I was like, I'll just call later. He's probably busy. I'll just call later. And it never came. And then a part of me is like, what if I would have called sooner? I don't know. But yeah, it was shocking. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. It was just a horrible feeling. Just a lot of emotions, because I was excited that he was building a great relationship with my daughters. Until this day, that was 2016. They were like 1-2 years old, like 2 and 4, something like that. And to this day, they still remember Papa Chapa. To this day. That's how much of an impact he had on them, So I was like a little disturbed and upset about that. And just like, I had hopes for a better future, but you just don't know, man. When it comes to mental health, it is a wild thing. But I think it goes back to, like, we don't learn how to cope. We don't learn how to deal with emotions. Like, I'm half Mexican, so my dad was Mexican, so there's like a machismo side there where it's like, oh, we don't cry, we don't talk about our feelings, and that's a lie from hell, because it's important to discuss how you feel and what you're experiencing. The last thing you need is somebody thinking, man, I'm dealing with this on my own. And that's what the devil tries to do, right? It's to destroy and kill and isolate. He does that with isolation. He isolates you with your thoughts, right? I think Joyce Meyer said the idle mind is the devil's playground.
Right.
And it's so true. But again, that's, in church, we don't talk about those things. We don't mention those things. And I'm sure there are people who do that, but as a whole, it's kind of, you have a few leaders and everybody else is just kind of a part of, we don't train that everybody, we should be checking in on our family and our friends. And if somebody lives down, say, hey, is everything okay?
Has there been seasons in your life, Eddie, where you're like, you know what, Lord, I'm done with this Christian thing. Yeah. Like, bye. I
go to college and I'm doorman, play college basketball, and college life is wild, because literally everything is there at your hands, and so whatever. A couple years of I stopped going to church. I don't think, I do remember saying I'm not doing this church stuff, God stuff. But right. A part of me knew I was lying. I was disappointed. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the people that, were supposed to be loving on me, caring for me, the moment, I couldn't, because of distance, I couldn't fulfill certain things. The relationship shifted, and so I said, you know what? And another thing too was I was still an active youth leader, and the way I saw it, because I didn't understand grace, is that who am I to be out here bugging out and then in the pulpit or preaching or leading and stuff like that? So I said, you know what? I don't want to be a bad example. I don't want to say I'm doing one thing and then doing another. So I just distanced myself from church altogether. And once you give in to, the things that you want to do that are not right before the eyes of God, is a rabbit hole. It's just, you sink deeper and deeper and deeper. And so I thinking about it now, I can see why most people end up depressed or, dealing with a whole bunch of things, because there's no hope there. It's like if what gave me hope is no longer there, and I'm hoping that sex, drugs, girls, sports, school, career is going to fulfill that, to ultimately find out that's not going to fulfill it. You know what I mean? And then 2010, I thought I graduate, I'm getting my master's, I move into my own place, and I thought life was going to be like college, because college is fun. I'm not going to lie. It was a good time. And the good time was community.
Right. Yes.
And we was right there with our boys, with our teammates, with our friends. You want to party tonight? Sure. Let's do it. And so I thought life was going to be like that. And it's not life, because everybody has to figure out their own life after college and stuff like that. And I remember I was playing the basketball tournament, went up, scored, came down, turned. My knee didn't turn. Destroyed my knee. That was the summer of 2010. And I was lonely. I'm like, where's my friends? I don't have nobody here. There's nobody. My neighbors aren't here, And I made a decision. I remember I said, I'm going to go to church camp, because I need to get this thing with God right. We go to church camp, and I had somebody challenge me. He's like, why are you here? And he asked everybody. He's like, why are you here? And I said, well, I used to be a youth leader, and I used to do this. I used to do that. I want to go back to be able to do those things. And he said, you're limiting God. He said, why you don't ask for double the portion? I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I said, if I'm going to ask for double, I'm going to ask for triple. And that was my prayer. Bro, that camp, those sessions, the preaching was, I can, I will, I must. I still remember to this day. And one of the first things that I faced was, because I was tall, I was insecure. I always felt like odd. Right. And so for me to be in church and lift my hands was a struggle. And I'm sure people deal with that. And I remember standing up in a big room full of probably 1,000 people. Right. And I'm like, I'm going to get up. I don't care what people think. And that was a breakthrough moment where it's like, God, I'm more concerned about what you think about me than what everybody else thinks about me. And that was it. I came back from that event. In church, I asked Pastor if I could speak. I said, in front of church, I said, before God, my mother, pastor, the church, I'm never turning my back on God.
How do you continue to encourage people about Jesus but to also keep your personal walk with him fresh, new, strong on a daily basis?
To be honest, some of the things that I do is this. You know, like I surround myself with people that love Jesus, right? That know that there's purpose in their life, that are doing things, right? That are that have projects going on, that are running ministries, that know that they're called and that their life they've been separated. So I'm intentional about finding like people like that, you know, and for me that fills me up. That fills me up, you know. Of course, I go to church. There was a point, check this out. There was a point I didn't think church I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to go to church because in church it could get, like, we follow a routine. One thing I realized, I read a book called Not a Fan when I came back from the Lord. Not a Fan. Guys think that Kyle's something.
Okay.
That book is like, are you a fan? Like, people go to a game and you have fans. And he's like, that's kind of similar to churches. Are you a fan? You just go and are you like doing the church thing, you know? But then in that book he says, and it's so true, he's like, I realized I grew up in church. I didn't grow up in Christ. And there's a big difference there. There's a big difference there.
So real quick,
Yeah.
I want to just, talk a little bit about marriage. I want to know, because I don't know anything. As far as, I've seen your wife on a few occasions, but I want to know a little bit about your marriage story, how you guys came about, and where you at now.
That's when I met my wife, man, it's God. It was God, like literally, like God orchestrated. I come back to the Lord 2010. The same time, a friend of mine who went to college together is being discipled by my future wife at her workplace, right? 2010, my wife comes to the Lord and she has a drastic experience and transformation in her life, and she goes from being, like doing her thing to like, I'm about Jesus. And so I'm posting stuff on social media. She connects us like, man, Ed and Ez would be such a dope fit. So she tells my wife about me, and he's like, yo, don't force nothing. She was about Jesus. And so, I reached out to her and we started talking, the friend, and I invited her to my church because she was trying to figure out where she wanted to be. I invited her to my church and she's like, Ed, is it okay if I bring somebody? I'm like, yeah, the more the merrier. She brings, my wife at the time. That story is just crazy because that Pentecostal church storefront, the entrance was the exit, and it was like a 3-4 hour service. So she was stuck and she was not used to that. So when I met her, it was like hi bye. She was tight. She like,
okay.
But
okay.
The friend reaches out to me and she's like, it was crazy. My mother saw her walk in the church and she calls me while church was going on. Like, I was running late. I was coaching in Brooklyn. She said, you coming to church? I said, yeah. She said, there's a tall, beautiful girl here. I'm like, Ma, you in church? Hang up. And so, whatever. Fast forward, my friend reaches out and she's like, yo, are you dating anybody? I was like, no, and I'm not planning on it. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't, She's like, well, I just thought about you and my friend. I was like, let me pray about it, right? I did. A week later, I'm like, you know what? I'm interested. And I was honest. I have no game. I don't even know where to go from here. She's like, I got you. Don't worry. And she asks permission to exchange numbers. I reach out to her, and I text her, and we never stopped talking from that text message. That was December 3rd, December 4th that I met. A couple days later, I think the 11th, we text. The 19th was our first date, and January 1st, 1111, January 1st, 2011, actually my girlfriend, May 5th, engaged, August 27th, married, 8 months, right? And so, but early on, like week 1, we were having conversations because I already knew what I wanted. I said, yo, God has called me to do something. I'm going to do some big things in my life, like a pastor or something like that. Like, is that okay with you? She's like, all right. And and like that, we've always rocked it. We've always like come together and things like that.
How did you guys deal with conflict in marriage?
Our first year, if you could summarize it in a word, was conflict. Like, it was pretty bad. Like, it was back and forth, and And I remember one time, like I called a friend, you know, I'm like, yo, help, and then his approach was like attacking her, like, yo, you know, if you don't take care of business, Eric gonna go. I'm like, no, I don't think that's the conversation that's supposed to be happening right now, you know. But one thing that we always did is we came back, and so throughout the years, because it's something like whoever says they have like a perfect marriage is a lie. And I remember asking somebody else in church, like, yo, bro, I'm kind of going through it. Like, he's like, yo, take care of your business. not trying to.
What?
Not trying to help. Like, I was intentional about, like, seeking help. It wasn't, you know?
Yeah.
And now we got the best advice. But my wife and I, man, we always came back together. We always, you know, because it goes from here. And we always managed to get back here and just, hey, but I like this, or I like to be spoken to like this. And so, like, addressing what you like, what you don't like, you know, and with that, what happens most times, I think, is you start uncovering things that are there that are from the past, and then also you have two different worlds colliding. I do things like this, you do things like this. This don't make sense to me, that don't make sense to me, and so how do we merge that together, you know? And a lot of trial and error. A big thing also, like we do marriage conferences and anything that can help our marriage get better. We are intentional about those things. There's been seasons where we've been distant and we attend one of those things, and it just helps bring us back to like what's real important. And we've learned through conferences and different things like that how to have conversations. Man. Right? Because like if I don't have the tools, I have to learn the tools on how to do these different things. And that's really, really, really helped us in our marriage. Marriage gets better over time, you know? And who we are today is not the two young people. She was, I think, 22, 23. I was 25 when we got married, right?
Right.
But we're not the same people. We've grown and we've matured. But that first year, what got me through was, this is long term. And so I realized sometimes we get crazy about momentary things and we make it like this big thing. It's not. It's just a momentary conflict that's not going to matter a few months from now, a few years from now. We're not going to look back at that. And so what is important, you know? And that got me through the first year. And there's also a scripture that says, if you at odds with your wife, God don't hear your prayers. So I had times that I would argue with my wife, and I'd be like, God, I know you can't hear me, but I got nobody else to talk to at this moment. You know what I mean? And so that was interesting. But we had a beautiful place now. Marriage is dope.
Yeah.
It's work though. I had a friend of mine. He was a bouncer one day, and he had just. I used to bounce, by the way.
Oh.
I was a bouncer, yeah.
Okay.
Random stuff. But great guy, got married, and he was like, we talking, he's like, your marriage should not be work. I'm like, oh, bro, this is not gonna be good. If that's the approach, and they ended up, getting divorced. Because marriage is work. It's like, why are you the way you are? Like, you're trying to be loving, but it doesn't resonate with me. Or I'm trying to be loving, doesn't resonate with you, because we receive and give love. So it's just a big learning process. But if you put in that work, man, finances get better, sex gets better, right? You're gonna talk about it. We married, we can talk about that, right? And so,
yes, sir.
Because there's a thing out there like, oh, how am I gonna be good at this if I've never done it? And you go out there and you give yourself away to mad people, and now you're freaking in a hole and you don't know what to do with yourself. And how do you get better at sex? Is you have a lot of it. And you learn, I like this, I like that, I don't like this, I like that. And you learn and you grow. And it gets better. It gets better because I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so that's stuff we don't talk about in church like that.
We don't.
We don't. But it's important.
So good. Is it healthy to have female friends as a married man?
My view on that is no new friends.
Okay, Drake. Okay.
No new friends. And vice versa. No new friends. Right? You're gonna have people but people that you spending time with, that you like, hey, if I'm sharing things that I should be sharing my wife with somebody else, that's a problem. That's a problem. And so my wife is a great example. She has 3 dude friends that were friends, best friends, close friends before me. And early on, she made it a point to be like, yo, these dudes are brothers to me. I love these dudes. I'm just letting you know now.
Right.
Because you may not understand the relationship. And fast forward, I understand the relationship, because...
Right.
But she was upfront about that. And again, it was new to me at the time. I probably didn't handle it properly in the beginning because it's uncomfortable. But she was upfront with that. And me, like I always say, this is just me. And I tell people all the time, I don't open doors that I don't want open. Or that could potentially be something. I don't put myself in a situation that could potentially like lead to something. And it's easy, you know what I mean? I think that's important. I think people are not they put themselves in situations they shouldn't. You know what I mean? And there's been people where I'm cool with, there's nothing there, and my wife comes around and she's like, "Yo, this is uncomfortable." So I've cut those relationships off.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is temporary. Me and you is forever.
Forever. I only have one last question for you, bro. According to you, Ed, what is the definition of a man?
Somebody who knows who they are in Christ, knows how to value the people around them, knows how to serve, knows how to love their wife, knows how to love their kids, knows how to love their pastors, their friends, their communities, their co-workers, speaks up when they need to speak up, doesn't allow harm or prejudice or anything bad to happen to the people around them. A man is someone who steps up to the plate even if it's uncomfortable, even if they're not ready, even if they don't feel prepared. Man, a man is somebody who is on their knees in God's word, seeking guidance from the Holy Spirit on a 24/7 basis, and is needed. Men are needed in this society to step up and be who God called them to be.
Ed, thank you. I can't even, that's perfect. I'm going to leave it right just like that. This is Barr and Friends. I'm here with my brother, my boy, Eddie. And see you in the next episode. Peace.
God bless.